Vesuvius gave a dire warning. And should we look for that at Campifree? New evidence, guys, it's mind-blowing. Had the people of Pompeii known that the volcano is giving them a warning, they were signs. They could have reacted and it could have saved everyone. So these signs, this could help us with volcanoes all over the world, but especially maybe with something like Campifree. There are two different types of volcanoes. Vesuvius is a stratovolcano that just had another earthquake, by the way, and Campifree keeps coming with the earthquakes continuously, basically right now. But what am I talking about, guys? This is highly interesting. So, lush before lava is how we can call that. The surprising pre-eruption bloom phenomenon. And this is kind of bad for the people because something happened that they were enjoying that was making them hopeful for their future, but it was a sign for devastating destruction. So picture this. Just weeks before Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii in ash, local farmers reported the most abundant harvest they'd seen in decades. So their vineyards burst with plump grapes. The olive trees dropped under the weight of so many unusually large fruit. And this wasn't just a coincidence, but they didn't know that. It was an absolute cruel twist of fate. It was nature's own spectacular farewell performance. Yeah, that's what I think this was, a phenomenon that scientists are only now beginning to understand. Deep beneath volcanic regions of the Earth's crust undergoes a remarkable transformation in the months and years, weeks leading up to an eruption. We know the magma chambers are filling up slowly with molten rock, creating immense pressure that forces mineral-rich gases and solution through tiny cracks in the crust to the ground above. Fumaroles that we're seeing at Vesuvius, but also at Campifree. Campifree right now has an intense rise in gas emissions. These underground chemical cocktails, guys, contain essential nutrients that plants desperately need. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and dozens of trace minerals that typically take years to accumulate in regular soil. It's like nature's own slow-release fertilizer system, but one that comes with a devastating price tag. Of course, it's still fertile soil, takes a while after an eruption. That's why people settled right on the volcano on Campifree, and they didn't know what they were settling on. They just learned that much later. But let's get back to Vesuvius. To this day, people are residing on the slopes of Vesuvius and the government can't make them move. They have offered them 30,000 euros should they move, but not many takers. So this is the absolute red zone. Before an eruption of Vesuvius, the soil became supercharged, and the people of Pompeii noticed it. They just didn't know how to interpret this until just now. Can you imagine? This is crazy. The pre-eruption soil enrichment process basically works like a botanical steroid injection. When the volcanic gases are seeping upward through rock fractures, they dissolve the minerals in that process and they create nutrient-dense solution that saturate the root zones of the nearby vegetation. Can you believe that? So suddenly, the plants have access to a mineral buffet that would make any gardener jealous. I'm collecting my horse's poop and I'm turning it into fertilizer. So, but don't get me wrong, I don't want a volcano underneath my farm, although I'm looking at one. So, of course, this nutrient surge doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that can take months or even years. So the slow buildup means plants have time to adapt and take full advantage of that enriched environment, leading to growth spurts that can double or triple normal vegetation size and harvest. It's basically a volcanic greenhouse effect. So beyond the chemical feast, pre-eruption volcanic activity creates a unique microclimate that plants absolutely love. Underground heating from rising magma warms the soil from below, creating perfect growing conditions even in typically harsh climates. So it's basically a natural underfloor heating system that is extending the growing seasons, and it allows plants to thrive when they would normally be dormant. So now we have this combination of warm soil, rich with minerals and nutrients, and that creates what scientists call a volcanic greenhouse effect. Did you know that, guys? But it gets better. The plants respond by producing more flowers, larger fruits, denser foliage than they would do under normal conditions. It's nature's way of making the most of an incredible opportunity, even if that opportunity comes with a ticking time bomb underneath. And already we should have known about this because the ancient Roman writers, they documented extraordinary plant growth around Mount Vesuvius decades before its famous 79 AD eruption. So I am sure that once the word spread, even more people came and settled around Vesuvius. Pliny the Elder wrote about grapevines that produced fruit twice the normal size and olive trees that bore so many fruits. They were so heavily, their branches required additional support. Local farmers thought that this was sent by the gods, that this was a blessing by the gods. They had absolutely no idea that they were witnessing a geological warning sign. But also, Iceland, guys, the ones who follow my channel, you've seen the eruptions in Iceland. Similar accounts exist from Iceland, where farmers near Eyjafjallajökull, that's a tongue breaker, volcano reported bumper crops of hay and barley in the years before its 2010 eruption. Was a big eruption. Also Japan. We're reporting a lot about Japan these days. I just released a video that's mind-blowing, this massive earthquake swarm with at least 11 earthquakes over magnitude 5. They have detected a rapid crustal movement, and at the same time of the earthquake swarm, now all the volcanoes are popping. Is this a domino effect? Watch the video in the end screen. Japanese historical records from the 1700s describe cherry trees blooming out of season near Mount Fuji, out of season, and they created spectacular displays that drew crowds from across the country, and this has been documented. So modern volcanologists, of course, are now starting to look into this, and they're using sophisticated instruments to measure the chemical changes that are happening beneath active volcanic regions. They're using ground penetrating radar and soil gas analyzers. All this is revealing how pre-eruption activity alters the chemistry of entire ecosystems. So the data shows that sulfur compounds, carbon dioxide, and other volcanic gases create a complex underground chemistry lab. So people that live on Campifree on the burning fields, they should watch their garden and their fruit trees. So Of course, these chemical reactions just don't only feed plants. They fundamentally change how ecosystems function. We have soil bacteria populations that are exploding. They crave even more nutrients through decomposition. Fungi networks expand rapidly, helping plants access the nutrients across wider areas. So the entire underground ecosystem becomes hyperactive, basically like a biological engine that's running at maximum efficiency until it blows. And perhaps the most striking aspect of pre-eruption blooms is how they defy natural seasonal patterns. Like desert plants near volcanic eruptions suddenly burst into flowering during dry seasons without any water. Alpine vegetation blooms at elevations where frost should prevent any growth. These impossible natural gardens create breathtaking displays that seem to mock the law of nature. But now we're starting to understand why this is happening, and it's kind of cruel. The scientists have documented cases where extinct plant species suddenly reappear in volcanic areas. They're growing from seeds that have been dormant in the soil for decades or even longer. But the nutrient surge and the optimal growing conditions wake up these sleeping seeds, bringing back vegetation that hasn't been seen in our living memory. But then it's not only plants that are responding to these pre-eruption conditions. Basically, the entire food web gets a massive boost. Insects thrive on the abundant vegetation. Bird populations explode as the food sources multiply. And then even large mammals benefit from the increased plant productivity. Humans, of course, the people in Pompeii. The wildlife photographers often report unusual animal behavior and population booms in volcanic regions months before eruptions. I think this is also something that residents that live on these volcanoes should start to be informed about so that they can be on the lookout. Because who knows the area better than the people that live there every day? Even better than researchers. They know their garden. So this ecologic ripple effect creates a temporary paradise for everyone. The bees produce more honey, the birds lay more eggs, the herbivores grow larger and healthier. The entire ecosystem operates at peak efficiency like a biological clock that's been wound up to maximum tension. And here's the word, tension. Today, we're able to track these biological changes alongside traditional seismic and gas emission data. Satellite imagery especially is useful. It can detect vegetation growth patterns that might indicate some underground volcanic activity. Some scientists argue that monitoring plant health could provide earlier warnings than any traditional geological measurements. So farmers and gardeners in volcanic regions have learned to read these natural signs if they're living in an area where there's volcanic eruptions on a regular basis so that they can see the changes. And experienced agricultural communities often report unusual crop yields to local authorities in some countries. That contributes to valuable data to monitor these volcanoes. So traditional knowledge that exists now combined with modern science creates a comprehensive early warning system that they really should develop further. But nature's generosity has a dark side, a cruel irony, I would say. The very conditions that create this biological bounty are building towards an event that will destroy everything in its path. Plants invest their energy in reproduction and growth. Plants are unaware that their enhanced environment signals impending doom. So this natural tragedy plays out repeatedly around active volcanoes worldwide. Of course, the communities benefit from these incredible fertile soil and abundant harvests. that makes volcanic regions in general the most densely populated areas on Earth. The biological bounty is masking this underlying massive geological threat, and it creates a false sense of security that has led to countless disasters throughout history. It's like the volcano's drawing the humans before it blows. And who would have thought cold Iceland offers some of the most dramatic displays of pre-eruption blooms in the modern world? Iceland has a unique position on the mid-Atlantic ridge. It creates frequent volcanic activity. And the local scientists have documented the phenomenon extensively. Lupine flowers create purple carpets across landscape that should be barren, while Arctic poppies bloom in an impossible profusion. It looks beautiful, but it has a meaning. In 2021, this current eruption series began with the eruption of Fagradalsfjall. It was preceded by months of unusual plant growth that has attracted international attention. The social media were filled with images of plants thriving in these subarctic conditions. It was really, really strange. It has created a natural spectacle that drew thousands of visitors because it was strange. Basically, the contrast between these flower carpets and this volcanic lava carpets everywhere has created some of the most compelling natural photographs of the decade. But another area that has frequent eruptions right now, the Hawaiian Islands, provide a living laboratory for studying pre-eruption blooms. Kilauea is erupting frequently. It has just erupted again. I think it was episode 27. Frequent activity creates constantly changing conditions that allow the scientists to observe the phenomenon basically in real time. So native Hawaiian plants like Ohia lehua and Maile show dramatic responses to volcanic soil enrichment, and they also show displays that have cultural significance for local communities. So the traditional Hawaiian knowledge recognizes these signs as communications from Pele, basically the volcano goddess. And there's ancient chants that describe how plants signal volcanic activity. And the modern scientists are finding that this traditional wisdom accurately reflects the biological processes that the scientists are studying themselves. But then there's the Mediterranean region, has many volcanoes as well. Long history of volcanic activity. Countless examples of pre-eruption blooms documented across millennia. Mount Etna's frequent eruptions have created a detailed historical record of biological warning signs. Very pretty biological warning signs. Local farmers have developed a lot of knowledge for reading plant behavior, and they have passed down observations through generations. The wine regions near these active volcanoes produce the world's most prized grapes. They're benefiting from this mineral-rich volcanic soil. So next time you're drinking Italian wine, watch where it's coming from and thank the volcano. But also winemakers have learned to watch out for unusual vine behavior that might indicate increased volcanic activity. Because the same conditions that create exceptional wines can signal approaching danger. And that creates a complex relationship between agricultural success and geological risk. The interesting thing is, the plants are better than humans. The research shows that the plants can detect these chemical changes at concentrations far below of what human instruments can measure. So the root systems of the plants, they act like sensors. They're picking up super tiny variations in soil chemistry, and they're responding with dramatic growth changes. And this biological sensitivity of the plants exceeds by far our technological capabilities. So it makes plants invaluable partners in volcanic monitoring. Did you know that, guys? I find that fascinating because the common knowledge is, yeah, volcano erupted, lava everywhere. After a long time, this becomes rich, very fertile volcanic soil. But nobody talks about the other phenomenon. Also, now we know that the relationship between the bloom intensity and the eruption timing follows predictable patterns that scientists are still working to understand. So they don't have a big knowledge about that yet. But generally, the most dramatic responses occur a month to 2 years before major eruptions. That could give communities potential warning signs or warning time. Of course, if it's years, it's difficult. What do? Your garden's getting greener. Do you leave? The problem is that the timing varies significantly, and that's depending on the depth of the magma chamber of each volcano, the local geology, and of course, the volcanic system complexity. Because some eruptions also follow these biological warning signs just by a few weeks, but others may take years to materialize. And so there is a big uncertainty there that makes like a pre-eruption prediction very, very difficult. It's a blessing and a curse. They do provide an early warning, but they don't give a precise timing. So the problem is that the communities now must balance the benefits of volcanic soil with the ever-present threat of an eruption. And that creates complex risk management challenges for the authorities. So yeah, guys, I think this was interesting. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave the video a like. If you want to support the channel, check the links in the description. You can buy me a coffee on my buymeacoffee.com/silky site. Click the join button to become a supporting member here. And thanks for your supers, guys. Thanks for being on this channel. You're making this possible. Stay safe. Enjoy summer if it's summer where you are. Have a great day, evening, night. I see you very, very soon. Check out the video in the end screen because very strange things are happening in Japan. Are we seeing a domino effect? Here's the video. See you there.